Hey, I'm Brendan with Knowles 24/7, here to drop a little bit of news, and that is that Florida State defensive end Derrick McLendon is transferring out of the program. He will enter his name in the transfer portal as a graduate transfer, and that is an interesting development for the Seminoles for a few reasons. Number one, Derrick McLendon is a multi-year starter or at least contributor. He had 3.5 sacks in 2021 as a role player, high-end rotational piece, and then he emerged as a starter for the Seminoles last year. Had 3.5 sacks again, but also had a career high in 5 tackles for loss and fairly decent PFF grades. Basically a replacement level player, a standard, decent, solid Power 5 starter. You don't want to dismiss this loss as something that's insignificant because decent pass rushers, they don't grow on trees. Like at the Power 5 level, this is a premium position. You have someone who is proven. With that being said, and here's my second point why this is interesting, I think FSU is going to be able to withstand this loss, or at least that's going to be a talking point here today and then throughout the offseason, because you brought in so much talent in the transfer portal, in addition to what you retained via NIL opportunities with the Battle's End, guys like Jared Verse and Fabian Lovett, major contributors last year, high-end NFL upside types, they come back as well. So you have those two back. You bring in someone like Braden Fisk, who was an extremely accomplished pass rusher at the Group of 5 level at Western Michigan. He's technically a defensive tackle. He's going to play everywhere for FSU on the defensive line this year. Defensive end, nose tackle, maybe in some situations, 3 tech. You're going to move him across the defensive line. Gilbert Edmond was a South Carolina starter last year, and he's a big reason why I'm pretty confident FSU can withstand the loss of Derrick McLendon. Gilbert Edmond has been really good through the first couple weeks of spring practice. I think FSU is pretty optimistic they hit on him there. He's someone that still has a lot of developing to do, was kind of a project player coming out of high school that FSU recruited, ended up going to South Carolina, got his chance to start this past season, was decent at the Power 5 level, graded out pretty similar to Derrick McLendon, not quite as productive from a pass rush standpoint, but I think someone who has more upside from an athletic profile perspective. And then, of course, you have Patrick Payton, All-ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was really good last year. He's going to continue to be just someone who gets better and better with the more reps he has. He's so long, athletic, flexible, bendy, has a lot of like really natural pass rush ability that coaches continue to rave about, and even teammates are kind of like, how did he pull off this move? We didn't even practice it. So he's just got some natural instincts to him that I think is going to continue to be polished, and it's going to end up shining for FSU here sooner rather than later. And then you have someone like Byron Turner, who I'm really high on. He's looked good here in spring practice. He has a ton of athletic upside. Watch him on kickoff returns. He has a lot of juice, a lot of athleticism, just pure straight line speed is there. He's just been hurt the last 2 years. Someone who just needs more time, more in-game reps, and even practice reps just to hone his skills. The reason for Derrick McLendon's departure, I haven't been able to talk to Derrick personally, so this is the secondhand sourcing, but I think well sourced through enough different people to where I can confidently say that Derrick was not super happy with his role at Florida State. I guess that's kind of a duh. He transferred, so that would be a safe assumption. I think he's someone who valued himself and his perspective role more than what he thought the program was valuing him at. And so, listen, we all have our perceptions of ourselves in life, and we have to chase our own values and what we think we're valued at. And you just hope that your institution, the people around you, value similarly. In this case, it didn't seem to be adding up in Derrick McLendon's mind, and I think he'd grown unhappy with just, again, how he was being valued by the program, and then more recently, just didn't think that maybe he was getting the amount of respect from teammates that he felt he was warranted, given what he's put into the program as someone who was here since 2019, has helped build this program back to a level of high-end competency. So yeah, it seemed like he was at kind of a tipping point for FSU and himself in that relationship not working out. I think Derrick's going to do very well for himself in the transfer portal. He's a grad transfer, so he's going to have a pretty robust market as someone who can transfer immediately. This is really important to remember. The NCAA allows 2 transfer period windows in an offseason, one in December, which we already saw that spectacle a couple months back, and FSU obviously benefited from it. And the second wave comes after spring practice. Because he's a grad transfer, he can enter outside of that window. So he's going to have a corner on the transfer defensive end market. There's not a whole lot of other guys available right now. And so, yeah, he's going to probably do very well for himself because he is a commodity, one of few commodities at a very scarce position right now, at a position that's usually a premium position by NFL teams, high school teams, college teams. You can never have too many pass rushers. That brings me to my third point, and I think this is going to be one that's going to be a talking point, obviously here now, but throughout the offseason, and that's whether FSU should look at maybe adding a pass rusher in the transfer portal. Again, those guys don't grow on trees. They're not easy to find, and FSU doesn't have a ton of wiggle room from a scholarship perspective. They're probably already at a place where they need to lose 5 or 6 players to be under the 85-man limit at the start of fall camp. You have to feel good about what you have in Jared Verse, obviously, right? Like, that's the first domino. He makes everything else work there. He's the first domino to fall when you start counting what you have on the defensive line. Damian Lovett, Darrell Jackson going to be really stout inside. Braden Fisk is going to be this movable piece, so you feel good about your top 3 in the interior defensive line. And at defensive end opposite of Jared Verse, the spot that Derrick McLendon might have taken this year. It's what he had last year, but it wasn't a guarantee based on how other guys were performing in spring camp. I think Gilbert Edmond and Patrick Payton as a 1-2 punch gives you a lot more athletic upside. Maybe not as high of a floor as Derrick McLendon, but I think a far greater ceiling of what they can do. Patrick Payton has potential to be a double-digit sack guy by the time his college career is done. I think he had 5 last year. Someone who can continue to grow on that. And Gilbert Edmond is just kind of scratching the surface of what he can be, but you see all the tools there from a size, athleticism, and just power standpoint. The key is going to be getting someone like a Byron Turner to fall in line as your 4th defensive end to kind of withstand the lack of depth that you maybe lose with Derrick McLendon. Ultimately, I think that's what you lose with Derrick McLendon is assured solid depth. That's not irreplaceable, but it's something that is valuable, again, because pass rushers are such a premium and such a commodity. You want to have as many as possible. Do you add someone else in the transfer portal at defensive end? I think Duke Cooper emerging as a really solid safety makes it to where that's no longer a primary position. I think FSU feels pretty good about Winston Wright as a punt returner, so you may not have to go out and find someone there if Micah Pittman can't come back from his hip injury. So if you're looking at what you have at different needs this offseason, pass rusher might end up being a need, but that's going to depend on how, again, someone like Byron Turner develops throughout the final 10 or so spring practices. And same with Gilbert Edmond. I think FSU feels really good with what they have with him right now. But yeah, you're going to see how those 2 or 3 pass rushers that would have been either backing up or competing with Derrick McLendon, how they perform the rest of the spring. Make your evaluation. See if you have enough pass rush juice to feel comfortable about making a legitimate push for a conference title and perhaps beyond in 2023. Make sure you check out Noles247.com for analysis on the fallout of this decision for Derrick McLendon to leave the program, as well as just inside information. We had a pretty good grasp on this throughout start to finish of this developing situation for the last several days. So Noles247, recommend you to go there. If you like this video, like the content that you're seeing here, like the information you're hearing, maybe more than the content, I'm much better on paper than I am on video. That's our home base where I would recommend people to check out. So thanks for watching. Appreciate the support. Please make sure to like, subscribe to the YouTube video. That does help the channel grow a good amount. Appreciate you guys watching. Talk to you later.